Hey everyone, Richard Logan here from Automotive Logistics and Supply Chain Global 2024. I'm here today, joined on the Automotive Logistics Red Sofa with Jeff Peterson, Director of Global Trade and Logistics at Driv Automotive, a Tenneco company. Here with Jeff, he's been talking to our audience about using logistics as a force for good, developing and scaling greener and more ethical supply chains. Jeff, great to have you here. In such a dynamic and fast-changing environment, how do you stay on top of global trade compliance issues and ensure that your supply chain is working to the most up-to-date regulations and patterns?
Yeah, one of the main things that we focus on is we work with our customs brokers, our freight forwarders, and everybody within associations to try to build that network to understand what we need as a company. So you take some of the events that have happened. There's so many challenges that we're facing right now, and I would say right now in the U.S. we have different things going on with duties and tariff rates. In Europe, we're experiencing changes related to deforestation, plastic taxes, CBAM. There are a lot of different changes, and it's very difficult with these highly technical regulations to be able to keep up and stay on task. So we really leverage logistics service providers, customs brokers, trade consultants, and then also LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been a great way to really define where our needs are, and if there's a particular topic that you're really looking to hone in on, understand the evolution of the regulations while it's happening, LinkedIn has been a great source.
Yeah, I think that really highlights the complexity and the challenges that you face in your role. Another challenge you might face, of course, is internally when implementing new structures, new initiatives to be compliant, especially when it could come at a cost to the business. How do you manage this?
Yeah, so I'm a really big proponent of compliance helps breed cost savings. So I feel like they're one in each other, but sometimes it's very difficult to put on paper when you're looking to get a business proposition or putting together a business case. So I really have a three-phase approach of how I like to break down the hierarchy or the tiers that we work through. So the first thing that we do is look for direct costs. So in trade compliance, it's pretty easy when you're looking at duties, but there's also VAT impacts and different things like that. But we look for direct cost, and in that terms, it's duties. So if you can find any duty leakages within your system, you can easily pull those back and draw those back and try to get in front of it and stop that from happening. Great way to drive a business case. If that's more of a challenge, some of the indirectly impacts would be customer fill rate penalties, any other type of customer penalties, customs, legal penalties or things that happen. That would be the second way, and then the final would be operational inefficiencies. So any type of operational inefficiencies that may occur, be able to take that 1, 2, 3 tiers of that, and then you can put together a good proposition. In my case, generally on that top end, the direct cost, if you have an area of non-compliance or an area that you look to close the gap on, generally there's going to be duties that follow that are leaking, and you can build a pretty good business case right off that.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of, let's deep dive a little bit in terms of sustainability. How are you engaging with your suppliers, your providers, and carrier network to help them and ensure that they're adopting greener technologies, greener practices, and methodology across their operations to benefit your supply chain?
It's really collaboration. We say most of the greenhouse gases that are being emitted are happening through transportation networks. So that means that I physically am not touching the products as it's moving from supplier to my location and then out my door to the customer. So we're really relying on those who are actually physically moving the material. So they're the ones that are going to be fully ready to help do the carbon insetting and be able to reduce that. So it's a collaborative thing that we do with our carriers. The other thing that we do is we take what we're hearing from one carrier or one LSP and then the other, and then we put together best practices. So there might be something that is leading away in innovation on one service provider, but then when you take that, you can propagate the same benefits to somebody else, and it's a good benefit for everybody.
What are some of the challenges that you've encountered when scaling globally with Tenneco's worldwide footprint?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the big challenges is really the miles traveled. So if we're moving material from a supplier in China as opposed to a supplier locally, it doesn't matter what you're doing from point A to point B. Longer miles traveled is going to equate to more carbon output. So sometimes we can affect that with nearshoring, bringing the suppliers closer to us. But for a lot of reasons, that's not always feasible. So we have to rely on Far East and more miles traveled. So in doing so, we have to then focus on what are the next steps in the decision-making process. So if we have a supplier that's further away, we're going to look at some of the modality requirements. We're always looking to go ocean over air, rail over truck, and try to find the most, I guess, greenhouse gas economic way to ship. And by doing so, we're going to help reduce the carbon emissions in between point A and point B. And then finally, the one thing that we look at is trying to ship in the most economically efficient manner as possible. So get our utilization of our trailers, our containers up as much as possible, and that will help reduce the carbon emissions, because what we're doing is we're taking cycles out of our shipping cycle. So if we have 5 shipments a month, if we can make that shipment 4, just by better utilizing a container or a trailer, then we're taking that out of our network.
Yeah, absolutely. And another important area within your scope is ethics and developing ethical supply chains. So how is Driv Automotive developing and integrating ethical supply chains like forced labor, human rights issues into your supply chain management?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it really starts in culture. We make sure that we don't bring a supplier into our network until we've qualified them. So we have very stringent requirements on our suppliers to make sure that they're meeting our ethical requirements. We're also looking at financial solvency and a lot of other things as well on these suppliers, and also other risks. Are they in risk of high labor, or excuse me, high union labor disputes or anything like that that might affect us in the future? But we're looking at all that, and it really starts with culture. Tenneco, which is the company that owns Driv Automotive, they're the parent. 2 years in a row, Ethisphere honorable honoree of the world's most ethical companies. So that doesn't come by accident. That takes a lot of prep work, and that is what fuels the culture within our business. So when we go to make decisions, we have that backup of our leadership to say, yeah, this is something that we're going to do, and we're going to stick behind it, and it works out very well for us.
Yeah, excellent. And you're also working closely with industry bodies like AIAG, developing initiatives around ethical supply chains. Can you share some information around the programs you're developing and the working groups you're a part of, and the next steps from them?
Yeah, so I serve on AIG's Supply Chain Steering Committee. So combined with corporate responsibility and quality, we're the 3 groups that really make up the steering committees of AIG. And within those, within the supply chain within itself, there's a lot of groups that help facilitate that. So the forced labor, I think, is the one that's most pertinent right now. A lot of companies are having a very hard time with forced labor, getting to the tier N of the supply chain channel. It's not a lot different than what we faced in previous years with conflict minerals, but this is actually even more challenging than that, more challenging and more stringent. So that's one group. We also have the industry call to actions, which we're soliciting our feedback from the OEMs, the LSPs, and the tier 1s and the tier 2s, and try to identify where are the needs that we need to put actions in place from an AIG perspective to help close the gap and help facilitate trade within the automotive industry.
Yeah, fantastic. And what's clear when it comes to decarbonisation, developing more ethical supply chains, it's laced with challenge, with complexity. It could be a bumpy roadmap ahead. Is there a reason to be positive in this space?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of changes happening, and really when we started the push really on the decarbonization, it really requires innovation to get there. And so with that innovation just brings a lot of excitement and a lot of different things that are changing. And really, we didn't talk a lot about decarbonization on the transportation front. It was relatively new when we started getting into it 4 or 5 years ago. Not a lot of people learning, but now we're learning. Now we're learning some of the I guess the parallels between some of our cost savings and our emission savings. So we're trying to do both, and they really complement each other nicely. But we're adding just kind of that extra layer of looking at, okay, the more governance, the more environmental aspect of this. What can I do now to improve this more and more? And it's really been great. The other thing is kind of the think tank with the carriers and with the supplier network on how can we reduce. So there's a lot of innovation that we've come up with recently, but there's more to come. And the technology is going to get better and better. our understanding is going to get better and better, and we'll learn from mistakes that we've made, and then we'll put together action plans to build better solutions in the future.
Fantastic. Well, that's a great way to end. So thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you, and we'll see you soon.